started, everybody? Can everybody in the back hear me okay? I get myself up. Okay, coach, you have here. Down. Can you hear me in the back? Yes? All right, cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm with Acumen Solutions. This is our Cleveland office that you guys are in. It's also happens to be our tech center, one of our 5 office locations we have. And I'm joined here with Angela.
Hello?
They have some mic issues, so we might be occasionally yelling. So, anyway, so we're going to start this off with something that's probably very, very common if you've ever sat through any Salesforce presentation, the safe harbor statement. We are not Salesforce, so please, if you're making a purchasing decision, all that fun stuff on this little slide, go for it. Sure. So, yeah, so we are not safe, we're not Salesforce, but we felt the need to throw the safe harbor thing in here anyway, because it's not a truly Salesforce presentation without one. So, what is a community?
Hi everyone, my name is Angela. This first slide we're going to talk about is, like Joe said, describing what a community is. The first point is bringing people to a place where you can connect, both for a closed and open registration options. As we get further into the presentation, we'll discuss those options, but keep in mind this will help allow you to know what these usages are for your communities, and will overall give you a better idea of how your users are going to be using the community. The second point is part of Salesforce Community Cloud offerings, which is obviously why everyone is here, or part of the reason why people have attended today. So as we get into the presentation, we'll give you a better idea of an overview of what communities are, and allows you to collaborate with your business and your customers, and just a better overall idea of what a community is.
So communities can also be externally facing, which you guys are probably aware of. They're also can be internally facing too. So whether they're your employees or maybe somebody that's kind of leveraging more on the partner side, both options are available. And finally, communities are highly customizable, both from a configuration perspective as well as development. And as of Winter 15, there is Lightning component support for it as well. So it is not quite Lightning ready, but it's getting there. Safe harbor. So the value prop for this is, as we were kind of mentioning earlier, is connecting customers, partners, and employees with each other, in a place they can have a conversation that you can also be part of. As part of this, you can have them be able to access certain data and files, and then obviously collaborate, as well as potentially streamline business processes, depending on if it's actually dealing with partners as opposed to customers. And then finally, the next thing about it is it's mobile ready out of the box, and you can also do a lot of branding customization, both from the mobile side, whether you're in something like Salesforce One or going more towards the hybrid or native app side, as well as web.
This next slide is going to talk about where communities can help. So there are 4 areas within the community which will help your company. They're going to be service, sales, marketing, and employee. So the first one, service. The service cloud integration will help with more of your B2B or B2C customer support. This will give you a better sense of how to support your customers by providing knowledge articles for more self-help, and it will allow the articles to be right at the tip of your fingertips, as well as a useful ticket and case management tool. And lastly, it's also a space for your users to submit ideas to help with product development. The next area is with the Sales Cloud integration, which can be geared towards more of your resellers and distributors. Sales Cloud is going to help manage your leads, accounts, and opportunities. It will also help with your full sales process, and as Zach had touched upon, you play a lot with your analytics, which will help utilize with your reports and dashboards, which will show the performance and activities within your company. And next is marketing. So marketing, which is probably the most fun part about Communities, you're able to customize the look and feel of your brand to give the overall user experience of your brand awareness, as well as helps with gathering leads and customer information. It's also a space for collaboration through chatter, as well as adding your own ideas through custom objects and visual force pages. And lastly, a space that can help with employee interaction. It's a place as a social intranet. We highly utilize chatter to share ideas and problem solvings within our projects. It's also a great knowledge bank to help search for employee information and to help with, to show any knowledge-based articles as well.
All right, so there's a few different license types as we were kind of alluding to earlier, and we're going to talk to those at a very, very high level, as well as some of the limits, and go into a couple gotchas that we had, as well as some of our personal ones that we've actually worked on. There will be time for Q&A. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, so please hold your questions to the end. All right, so anyway, so license types. The very basic license type is the customer community. There's also one called the Customer Community Plus, which adds a few more features, and we're going to go into it. Partner Community is by far the most robust license Salesforce offers. And then finally, the Employee Community, which is a fairly recently new license type, is kind of designed more for read-only internal use, or ideally somebody that you want to have access to certain Salesforce information but can't really edit most of that. All right, so the customer community, obviously, so we're just going to go through the very, very basic features here. Social chatter is obviously turned on by default. You have mobile access, you have some custom branding that's very similar to how you would custom brand your Salesforce org at this point in time. A question and answer, which you can also turn on knowledge if you have the appropriate licenses and have knowledge exposed for your community, and you can have separate knowledge articles for the external community as well as your internal Salesforce instance. You can open up access to cases, accounts, and contacts based on roles and profiles. Touch on knowledge. Ideas is also very, very helpful to have in the community. You can turn on ideas and have customers or partners submit ideas, vote on them, and then you can also view them as well. It supports up to 10 custom objects, and it also supports Salesforce identity.
Okay. Customer Community Plus, you're going to have all of the same features as Customer Community, like Joe had just touched upon.
There will be a quiz at the end, so I hope you guys all
As well as role-based sharing for control of data access, some delegated administration capabilities. This is really useful when there are certain user profiles that don't have much access to data. So when you give those delegated admin rights to have a little bit more flexibility and leverage with that data. You'll also be able to run and export reports, dashboard viewings, and great feature, additional storage per user as well.
And all of these features you can turn on or turn off, so it's not like they're all on by default, so don't panic. So again, the partner community, as we mentioned before, is the most robust one of this four now. Again, role-based sharing, you have lead and opportunity management, so you can actually create, edit. You can have CRUD rights on leads and opportunities, as well as quotes. You have the ability to send emails if you want. access to the events and calendar side of things, as well as campaigns. So as you can tell from the partner side, there's a lot more access that you can do with actual stuff to work with partners, resellers, etc. Delegated admin rights, exports of reports, dashboard viewing, and then an additional storage of a little bit per user. Bear in mind that this also uses your Salesforce storage if you're using libraries, which we'll be touching on in a little bit. So it's something where I wouldn't worry too much about this.
And the last one is employee community. We will have your standard Salesforce objects, accounts, contacts. All of these will be read-only, so users cannot alter any information. You also have your chatter collaboration, like I mentioned earlier, where you're able to share ideas and help problem solve within the company. You'll also have your Salesforce knowledge articles, again, cases, about 10 custom objects, your dashboards and reports, as well as answers and ideas, and workflow task events, and as well as advanced sharing.
So some of the basic login details with the Salesforce community, and my mic keeps cutting out, so I apologize for everybody. I'm going to try to talk as loud as possible. For a partner or a customer community plus, you're limited to 300,000 users total per community. As with a lot of stuff we're going to say, if you think you're going to go over that, talk to your Salesforce AE. For a customer community, that is up to 10 million, and yes, I know it's quite a jump. I don't know what mathematically that is, but it's quite a jump. But community licenses are associated with users, not actually the specific community. So if you have more than one customer community, for instance, you can actually move users from communities without consuming additional licenses. They're also available as monthly login based, so this is more of the open registration kind of style instead of the closed registration kind of style. Again, we're not going to get too far in the weeds here because most people's community needs can vary. And then you also will purchase licenses in blocks, and so it depends on the license type and how you're actually doing login, but it's usually in large chunks, like 20,000, 50,000, etc. Again, if you have specific questions, definitely talk to your AE.
As Joe was saying, you're able to move your users between communities. The first consumption model is members, so this would be one license per member. This will give you a better idea of that closed registration that I mentioned earlier, so you'll know the user count. So these are the users who are visiting more than, say, 2 times a month, versus the logins.
So probably partners and stuff like that.
Yes.
That you want to make sure have access to it.
The logins, we'll have 20 licenses per login. Again, with the open registration, these are users who don't know so much of the count, may vary 1 to 2 visits a month. The hybrid, a big user with a login-based community license can access the communities through the Salesforce One app. They consume a login the first time they log in or if their session times out.
Yeah, so hybrids is also something where if you have partners and customers in the same community, which you may for whatever reason, you can actually have a kind of a combination of a consumption model here. All right, so we're going to talk about some very, very high visible model or examples of community clouds that are out there. How many people here have heard of Starbucks? Wait, not everybody's raising their hand. Okay, all right. Well, I guess you guys aren't from around here. Welcome. Anyway, so if you guys haven't heard that little green thing that you put in the Starbucks tab part, did you ever wonder where that came from? It's actually a Starbucks idea that was presented and voted up, and somebody thought of it, put it on Salesforce's, Starbucks' community, and made it happen. So that's one of my favorite stories because it's actually kind of cool to see how users can affect products going forward. Home Depot has a very, very robust one that they did recently. Virgin America has a very cool looking internal one. You can actually go to the Salesforce website if you want to see an example for kind of the employee style of internal communities where you don't want to necessarily pay for a full Salesforce license. Zero Motorcycles, which was actually featured at Dreamforce this past year, has a very robust community. Who knows what Brown Forman makes? Pop quiz. Nice. So yeah, so Jack Daniels, among others, is actually done by Brown Forman, which is also pretty cool. And again, an internal community for people to collaborate across their various brands. Pono Music is a new recent one. Neil Young's Pono player, high-res audio. And finally, Avid Technologies, which does, for lack of a better term, a video tech. So those are all cool and well, but we're actually going to kind of talk about what we've done as a company from a very high level. So here's a few of our examples. We've done over 30, but here's some of the ones we want to call out specifically. We've done the AARP volunteer community, school force, which Angel will be telling you about in a second. Family, GSA, which is the government, General Services Administration. MTD Products, City of Boston, K-12, R.R. Donnelly, and then Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation.
The projects that I personally worked on, I'm currently working on AARP's ATM and School Force.
I've worked on MTD Products.
I'm going to talk about School Force Communities first. School Force Community is a cloud-based educational solution that we came up with and supported for K-12 environments within the Washington, D.C. area. This online space we used for an ask and answer questions. The users were able to share tips with one another. They were able to access training presentations and recordings that the Acumen team had created and put on. They were able to find release notes when we go through our deployment schedules or sprint releases. And they were able to also receive important school force updates. So these users are actually school administrators who are using the product to better their schools, to be able to keep track of all their students and student information, as well as be able to share ideas and tips within the other schools for the school administrators. The tools we utilized within the School Force community were Chatter, Ideas, School Force Help, and Cases. As I mentioned before, Chatter was used to share ideas and tips and provide feedback to all of the school administrators, as well as share files and any resources that were helpful to any of those school administrators in a tight spot, or any areas of confusion that one school may have had better understanding versus another. Ideas was a space where they could submit and vote on any ideas that were submitted. The ideas that got the highest amount of votes, we would take into consideration and implement those solutions into School Force. School Force Help was their online articles to frequently asked questions that would provide immediate self-help for the school administrators. And Cases, if you were a system administrator, you can submit cases. That's where the support side, which is where I highly was involved in with support, working closely with the system administrators. They can submit their cases, and I would update the cases appropriately and let them know of a resolution for those cases. And then the project that I'm currently working on is AARP's Volunteer Technology Modernization. So there were some challenges, solutions, as well as obviously results to get us where we are today. As of today, we hold about 65,000 users within the VTM community. We went live in October of this past year. Previously, with AARP, they were working with a legacy system, and we were able to transition them into a community where they're now better able to better utilize and give better guidance for their volunteers instead of working so much on like the I guess administration like issues, and be able to really allow the volunteers to focus on what's important. And for AARP, that is volunteering within their 5 programs. Each of those programs have their own unique branding pertaining to their specific program within our community. And the solution that we had worked on for them is to help them manage their prospective volunteers. The system allows the volunteers to take on trainings, teach courses, provide any additional information that will help them vamp up and feel comfortable as a volunteer within our system, knowing that they're getting the right materials and information in order to pave themselves a roadmap in becoming an AARP volunteer.
Alrighty, so the MTD dealer community, they were suffering with, it was very tough for them to communicate with their dealers, which they are both B2C and B2B corporation. So, and they relied a lot on bulk emails and FTD sites, and it was very hard to make sure that everybody knew what was going on at the same time. So, we implemented the Salesforce Community Forum. It went live last year, and it was a place for them to bring in their independent dealer, their independent retail dealers to converse with each other as well as converse with MTD. And it was something where they first, they did a kind of a tiered rollout where they invited basically the champions of their product. They actually have a what's called a dealer panel, which is a group of dealers that do very, very well that have to be invited for it. They're usually taking on an annual trip. They're the super users. So they were invited to it first. They worked out some kinks, and then they started rolling out slowly to larger and larger groups. So that's something that we do see here commonly is it doesn't necessarily have to be a open the floodgates, everybody shows up at once kind of thing. Tiered rollouts can work depending on who the end user is going to be. Also, just another example, I didn't work on it personally, but just to kind of show the breadth of solutions that the Community Cloud can cover. City of Boston was a big one. There was just no connection between the city and various businesses. It was very hard for businesses to talk to the city about issues that they needed to deal with. So we used Community Cloud as well as some custom code to create an online hub to provide business and city with basically a portal to go to and a means of communication. And also Sales Cloud, and then they also had enabling cases here. And when we're talking about enabling cases and opportunities and stuff like that, it's kind of you have a window into your internal Salesforce org, but everything else is generally separate unless you make sure that that is actually exposed. So the chatter feed is actually a separate chatter feed than your internal chatter feed. So from a security perspective, a lot of people would just default saying, oh, we're just bringing people in like we would do with chatter groups into our internal org. It's entirely different. So here's the fun slide. So we've encountered a couple things here to kind of watch out for. We were by no means bashing the product, but there are some things that we found in our 30+ implementations that you will want to be aware about, especially as a consumer of Salesforce Communities. The first one, and this is pretty big, how many people here have a true private sharing model in their org? Everything's private. Just two. Right? So this goes for you too. When you enable a community, depending on how your role hierarchy is, it will break your security. So when you create essentially roles that are assigned to a community user, it goes down to basically whatever role that user is, and immediately creates one beneath it, and then you can't move. So it's a known bug, but it's something where you can't actually move it. So just be very cognizant when you're starting, because depending on how your role hierarchy is, you could be inadvertently sharing data to the community user, or vice versa. It gets created right underneath whoever owns, not the community, whoever owns the essentially the contact record. So,
yeah, it's the same thing with formal.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, and it's something where if you don't have a true private community and and everything's okay, it's something where we have seen it where it's inadvertently exposed data in the internal side to people that shouldn't be seeing it, depending on how that role hierarchy is set up. So it's just something to be cognizant of when you're working on when you start a community. The second thing is the licensing structure. If you don't need all of the features of partner community, because it can be a little bit more expensive, again, talk to your AE. See if customer community or customer community plus works for you. We found that if you really see what you need to use, you can potentially go between licenses and save yourself some money and not necessarily paying for a bunch of features you don't need. Shadow management is also one that we've seen from a couple companies, which can be difficult. There is no default out of the box, all company view like you would normally see in an internal Salesforce org. So you can't actually go to the community and see what everybody is posting, even if you're an internal user, without doing some custom code. And even with that custom code, you'll run into governor limits very quickly, because that's just how Salesforce designed Chatter. So it's something where management of that Chatter feed will probably need to be delegated onto a couple users, which from a community standpoint, you should probably already be aware of running Chatter internal. Here is a very, very specific gotcha. If you've done the old customer community plus license when they first rolled it out, which was technically a partner license under the hood with some code behind it, and you want to migrate to the new customer community license after Spring 14, which is actually a separate license, I don't think we have anybody in here that has that. Is that correct? So none of this is going to apply to you, but I'm going to still say it anyway. You actually have to recreate everything. So essentially not recreating your org, but you have to recreate all the profiles, all the roles, all the sharing roles, etc. Because it's just kind of a weird way they set it up initially. And then finally, kind of touched on it earlier, especially from a code perspective, you just have to be very aware of Salesforce's governor limits. If you're trying to do something that's kind of very intensive on the system, like doing an all chatter feed, sometimes you definitely hit those limits very quickly, and then it'll bring the Salesforce community down for 24 hours per Salesforce's normal way of doing things. All right. Okay. So yeah, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about Acumen. And I promise not to put you guys to sleep in the next 10 minutes. Please stay awake. Please. Anyway, so we dedicated a practice to this in 2014. We have both functional as well as technical resources. And so we provide both, obviously, functional and technical resource expertise to the Community Cloud platform, as well as industry-specific knowledge from our 30-plus implementations that we've had. We will be sharing this presentation. We just won't be sharing the part about our specific examples, just because obviously we don't want that floating around everywhere. But yeah, so Acumen Solutions, we are a global SI. We work primarily with large enterprises with a business-driven approach. We have a customer satisfaction score of 9.86. Which I believe the top part of that is 10, last I checked, so it's up there. Hopefully not 100. Really high up there, so. Anyway, but yeah, so we work with a lot of companies, and we want to make sure that they're happy. And here's a bunch of companies that we have worked with, and I'm not going to go through all of them because, well, you can read. So we do work both in the public and private sector. So I will call that part out. All right, so now we're going to have Q&A. We have contact information up there for both Angela, myself, as well as Mary Beth and Eric, who are the directors on both sides of this office. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Q&A. Any questions so far? I know we've dropped a lot of knowledge on you in 40 minutes.
So licensing?
Yes.
user per month or per login?
Correct.
Per block of logins?
Yes.
Correct.
So they're not measuring page views anymore?
No.
It's by session though, so if you have
Yeah.
people that are using it, especially from mobile, if you go the by login route, you really want to monitor it
Right,
because
because if
you'll get
plus-
people that if they drop their Wi-Fi connection and come back in, it'll be new sessions. So that can tick off pretty quickly depending where people access you from.
And have you worked through in those implementations, do either of you work through, on a session-based, licensing with customers? Has that been an issue, things like that?
From what I understand, I don't think it has been an issue, because at that point in time, you're usually buying such a large chunk of sessions, because the city of Boston, for instance, is probably a great example. You're dealing with, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of potential sessions at one point in time. So it's at that large chunk, it's just trying to guesstimate. And with a lot of Salesforce stuff, usually if you call them up and ask, you can get things bumped up.
And it's, just from a practicality standpoint, I mean, obviously, talk to your AE in terms of licensing costs, but does communities make sense are there certain thresholds? Like, if I'm a smaller company and we have, we want to have maybe 1,000 customers or a couple hundred customers, something like that, where's the, when does it start to make sense financially to implement?
I would say it depends on what you're trying to expose in your Salesforce org.
Okay.
So if it's something where you need to expose campaigns to customers, which I really, really doubt you would, but say you had like 1,000 resellers or something from like more of a partner-based thing, and you needed to expose campaigns and opportunities to them, and you kind of have to do partner community. But if you didn't, then customer community costs probably would work for you.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on what objects you need to expose to them.
Do you have any use cases for the employer or employee?
Yeah, so how many people here have experience with Microsoft SharePoint? All right, sorry, that was a lot more than I was expecting. Get my bearings. Anyway, so if you say you have a large field service team, a couple thousand users that need to see certain things in your Salesforce community, but you don't want to eat the cost of giving them a full Salesforce license, that would be one use case for it, where it's like, hey, these are all field sales guys that can see accounts and contacts, but they don't really need to necessarily interact with them that closely. They just need to be aware of them. And you don't, since they only need to be aware of them, they don't actually have specific credit rights, then that could be one use case where you could potentially save costs. Sorry, Salesforce. By using the customer, the employee community instead of giving them a full-on Salesforce license.
So we have maybe a couple hundred users.
Mhm.
They're not very active in Chatter, but we were thinking about using communities as a way to use Salesforce idea of like voting up, like, hey, what do you think of this? And vote it up to implement things that our users would like. But because they're not very willing to use Chatter, it's like, is it even worth trying to, regardless of the money, use communities?
Do they already have Salesforce licenses?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's a fun fact. You have ideas already in your internal org. So you guys can go talk to your admins or us and go turn them on. So you guys do have access to that already. And that sounds like it might be partially an adoption question as well. And some things we've seen, because, and you raise a very, very good point, because from an ideas perspective, especially if you're dealing with customers, you need to make sure somebody on the internal side is actually following up with those ideas.
Right.
And voting them up, voting them down, accepting them, implementing them, whatever that may be. So it's something where contests and stuff like that can drive people to actually use it. We've also seen monthly themes around a topic work really, really well, where it's like, hey, this month's theme is how are we going to improve our sales process? And the most voted up idea gets a launch or something like that. idea community, or sorry, internal ideas, and ideas that exposes to the community as well. So you guys, which is really great, if you do stand up a community and you have customers in it, for instance, they can be thinking of a bunch of ideas, and some of them probably aren't possible or relevant or even worthwhile to do. But on the inside, internal side, you can also have your sales reps and your production folk thinking of ideas that may bridge that gap, because they can actually, they have the rights, they can go in and vote on that external idea as well. But you also need to do internal ones like, hey, we want to change the, our compensation system to something else, where the customers don't necessarily need to see that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
And you can follow me after this. Anything else? Anybody else? Don't be shy.
What are some good ways that communities can be used for ticket and case management? I saw that in customer community section.
Yeah. Thank you. So within on the specific project that I was working on in Salesforce, we heavily use their case management, Salesforce case management tool, where we provided an external link on the Salesforce application, where they were able to go through and click that link and able to submit their any issues, cases that they were dealing with at that time.
Ticketing system that's available in Salesforce.
Yes. Did you hear what he said? Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, you're just doing you're exposing your sales, the ability to create cases in your org to a community of people that you actually either know or not know, depending on how the registration process works. So it's something where you can then, obviously from the cases side, you want to make sure that the
Assignment and routing rules kind of reflect that, but you're essentially exposing the ability to create cases or interact with cases to the community.
How does that work? Somebody, is a community, whoever created it in the community that owns the case, and you have to consider your sharing model?
That is one way you can do it, or you can have, I guess, workflow rules or triggers to reassign that to somebody else, from kind of the assignment process. So that's one of those questions where it really depends on the actual specific use case, and it can vary between customers. So. So for the employee community, I believe you get access to it from a read-only perspective. So you'll be able to see the cases that you have access to see based on your pre-existing security rights, but you wouldn't be able to interact with them. I don't believe so. Yeah, so it's something where if you need employees to actually be able to submit cases in that regard, there's a couple different options you could do. You could do a web case or an email case, if that makes sense, or potentially just a different license. Any questions, anyone? Okay, well, if that's it, then we'll be obviously around here, because we work here. So please feel free to grab any of us. We have a couple of our directors here as well. Dan Lastoria, who works with our development team, is in the back. Yes, Dan, I called you out. And then we have Todd over here, who leads our support group as well. So we're more than happy to talk to you.